Morning, everyone. My name is Yvonne. I'm saying hello to all of you from Singapore. I'm the chair of AAPPAC, which stands for the Association for Asia Pacific Performing Arts Center. I'm really happy that we can be here today. We're still having people streaming in. We've got a real good registration and sign up for today's talk. I think we are so fortunate when I think about this region, Asia Pacific. We are so fortunate because actually we are living in a time of peace. So I don't know, I'm sure you heard the news, the whole of this week, and more. To be able to do our work and be with our family and friends in an environment of peace, and for the arts to continue to kind of build an environment where we're getting to know each other and getting to know each other's culture, I think we ought to count ourselves lucky, and also to see the context for why the work we do is important. So press on, everyone, within Asia Pacific. I just want to say that Let's Talk, which is this online series, actually started in a time of trauma that maybe many of us have blocked up from our minds during COVID. Let's Talk started because we couldn't meet physically. But even after COVID, we continued with this format of meeting online because we felt that was just useful. Not every one of us can travel to a conference for APAC. But through this means, not just members of APAC, but anyone who works within the region, interested in the arts, can also participate in the conversations. So we've had conversations about arts education. We've had conversations about unconventional performing arts spaces, and of course, in the midst of COVID, of the pandemic, we did have a conversation about digital transformation. So it we're revisiting this topic today, and my colleague Clarissa will actually be moderating the conversation, and she will be saying a lot more about why are we revisiting this conversation. I think for many of us, digital has moved on from merely taking presentations online. It's been a part of how our entire organizations have transformed. We are, for many of our organizations, thinking of the impact of AI too, not just in art making or in our business processes, but how it's shaping the culture and the society that we are serving. So digital transformation is a topic that I don't think it's ever going to go away. And it's always going to be a topic that we're going to come back to. So it gives me great pleasure to be welcoming first all of you. I think we've got people from Auckland, New Zealand. We've got folks from Darwin, Wollongong, Queensland, Adelaide, Canberra, and Melbourne in Australia. We've got people coming in from Manila in Philippines, KL in Malaysia. We've got folks from the Royal Arts Complex, one of our latest members from Saudi Arabia, Taichung, Taipei, Kaohsiung in Taiwan, somebody dialing in from Jakarta, of course from South Korea, Daejeon, and from Hong Kong, the West Kowloon district. So a very, very varied and diverse group of folks in today's online room. And on the panel, I've already said that my colleague Clarissa, who's head of our digital and content marketing at Esplanade, she's going to be moderating today's conversation. There will be an occasion and chance for all of you to ask questions. If you can see the Q&A tab at the top, you could, throughout the conversation, already start posting your questions. And I think Claire will take a look at that. But we are also very fortunate to have two colleagues from Sydney Opera House. I recall even before the pandemic started, some of us have always looked to the Sydney Opera House at their programs and their broadcasting capabilities and wondered, is that the future for the performing arts? So we're really lucky today to have Brenna Hobson, who is the Director of Programming from the Sydney Opera House. Brenna comes with rich experiences from the theatre world, having worked in Scotland and having led also the Belvoir Theatre Company in Sydney. And we have with us also Jade McKellar. Jade is currently the Chief Customer Officer at Sydney Opera House, but she's had years of experience, not just thinking about customers, but thinking about customer experience and public experience, not just in the performing arts centers, but in aquariums, in the Sydney Tower, and a whole range of different attractions. So I think we have two speakers today who are going to share with us digital transformation and how the Sydney Opera House is thinking about this, what it holds for their future. So over to you, Claire and Brenna and Jade. And I'm giving you a kind of a digital applause to welcome you to this room.
Thanks, Yvonne, and hi, everyone. So I'm Clarissa. I oversee Esplanade's digital channels, including Esplanade Offstage, which is our platform where you can read, watch, and listen to content about the arts 24/7. So it's sort of like the counterpart of the Sydney Opera House's stream, read and listen web channels. And I'm really excited to hear more from the Opera House's programming and marketing leaders, Brenna and Jade. I mean, I think as many of us know, the Opera House isn't just an architectural icon or presenter of unforgettable live performances. It's also been an international pace setter in the area of digital broadcast and live streaming. So very excited to be in this conversation with Brenna and Jade, all the way in a conference room overlooking the Sydney Harbour. I'll hand you over to them for a quick introduction to set the scene on the Opera House.
Thanks, Clarissa. Morning, everyone, or afternoon for some that may be further down in the Southern Hemisphere. I'm Jade. Thank you for the kind introduction. Brenna and I are really excited to be here today to share a little bit about our journey in the digital space. And we'll just kick off with a little bit of background about the Opera House for those that don't know too much about us, and then we'll get stuck into some Q&A. Next slide, please.
Hi, I'm Brenna, and I want to acknowledge that we're meeting here. Jade and I are coming to you from Tupagali, the unceded lands of the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation, and pay my respects to elders past and present and all First Nations people who are joining us on this call. Next slide, please. Oops.
There's a lot of numbers on this slide, so we just thought we'd introduce a couple of the key things you might like to know about the Opera House. And this is a year old, so we are just wrapping our FY25 financial results, so we will be updating this. But generally, so the Opera House, we welcome around about 11 million people to the precinct every year, and around 9 million of those people come inside and have an Opera House experience, whether that's a performance or a tour. This year, I think we've had 1,700 performances. We've said 6 million here visit our website. That is a year and a half old. We've just wrapped those numbers, and we actually got up to 10 million unique visitors to our website over the past year. We have close to 2.8 million social followers, and a real focus on digital for us as an organisation over the last decade has seen what Deloitte valued our digital contribution to the economy valued at $500 million. I think you can maybe jump to the next slide, which just sort of summarises some of that, which I'll hand over to. Do you want me to do that?
Yeah, so just to say that the programming at the Sydney Opera House is a combination of our fantastic 8 resident companies, and Sydney Opera House Presents, the team which I head up, which produces around 40% of our programming. And of that, up to 6 million people are reached through our digital programming each year. Next slide, please. So we work across, as I said, a series of programming areas: contemporary music, contemporary performance, contemporary art, talks and ideas, families and creative learning, First Nation and classical music. And from just before the pandemic, we also brought on board a really concentrated digital programming stream, which has its own platform called Stream, of which more later. Next slide. So the story since COVID, I wanted to give you a snapshot of these numbers, because this is about the content that we create rather than website views. And what you can see is that in terms of the work that we put out, we had huge numbers in the height of the pandemic, when Jade tells me, I wasn't here then, but Jade tells me that 2 years worth of digital strategy was delivered in 2 weeks. And then we saw a real drop off over the subsequent years. But this last year has really picked up. And the thing that we wanted to tease out for you about that today, and this might be worth further conversation, is that we've gone from a lot of paid content and a lot of natural YouTube views to having to really invest in those YouTube views and getting some really great results from the column that you see at the end of earned content, which is where we work we're partnering with Tom York's people through his socials, through the BBC, through ITV or SBS in Australia. So that for us is a real growth area. Next slide, please. And I would be remiss not to talk about the work that is generated by artists, because this is their passion. So obviously we record productions for distribution. We also have a really strong short film commission content, and that comes from our desire to enable artists to play with different media that they might not have worked with before. So the short films could be from opera artists, it could be from people who normally work in theatre or music, and to give them a chance to kind of shift how they work. And also increasingly we're working with artists who are playing with digital technology. So last year we had a work by Alistair McIndoe called Plagiary, where AI decided the dance moves that a series of contemporary dances we're going to do live each night. And some of the other images that you can see on the screen are from a development that we did just last week, where we're using motion tracking technology mapped onto babies to have those babies play different instruments. So if the baby moves its arm, a little timpani will come up. And that has been, that's right at the beginning of its testing, and we're excited to see where that work goes. Next slide, please.
So we thought we'd throw this in here, and we will send around a link with the pack at the end of today's presentation. But this was a labour of love for us during the 50th anniversary. We wanted to create a really beautiful brand piece that brought a lot of our stories out of the archives, compared with new filmed content of from the current day, really tell a beautiful Opera House brand story. We launched that on our 50th anniversary on the actual day. We did milk our 50th anniversary for a whole year, but we culminated on the actual day. And this particular piece of work did incredibly well on YouTube. It had well over 6 million views, lots of PR coverage globally, and it's won more awards than I think the building has at this point in time. So including a gold lion at Cannes, which in the advertising world is a really, really big deal. It's like the Oscar. An Oscar or a gold Logie if we're going to go local. Nice. In Sydney, in Australia, we've got our TV awards this week. I think that's the last of our sort of slides on a bit of background, and I think we're going to get into some
excellent. So I mean, yeah. So actually, I mean, the story you've shared, I mean, post-COVID, it's quite a fascinating one, because I think art centers around the world, I mean, just talking to some of my counterparts in other arts organizations in Singapore, we've also seen the need to become platform agnostic, to move away from like a reliance on a particular digital or paid platform to other channels like YouTube. And yeah, I mean, YouTube's a big growth area for Sydney Opera House, right? So yeah, I'll talk a bit about the reach parts about that in a while. But just to dive a bit deeper on your digital programming, what are some of the considerations in deciding which of your extensive array of live programs to record?
Yeah, it's complex is the short answer, but we try and offer up a range of our work. We also try and represent our resident companies. There are some art forms that are really difficult because of things like union legislation. So it's very rare to be able to record a company like the ballet. Often for the contemporary music acts, it's something that they really want to partner on. They might want to release through their own channels, or indeed they might have deals with broadcasters around the world. So those sorts of things come into play. But also within all of that, we're looking at balance. And it's worth saying that we do also We record audio only for a number of our areas, including classical music and talks and ideas.
Right. So, I mean, in terms of, because what I can see is that also you've been shifting away from Vimeo and paid, I mean, to reach, right? So how much of your digital content now is paid versus free to access? I mean, in terms of your output.
Yeah, so what we've really found, and Jade's been doing a lot of thinking on this as well, but what we've really found is that the appetite for paid content has really dropped off post-pandemic. And I mean, I think instinctively as a programmer, I understand that. I want people in the building. I think it's incredibly important in terms of access, but it's not, revenue is not a driver for us anymore, and we're looking at it completely shifting.
Yeah, and I think Brenna mentioned in the opening, we had, like everybody in late 2019, we were thinking about what digital meant for the Opera House. We had a chair at the time that was very into us, filming everything and making a whole lot of money off digital, like some of the other international arts organisations. We had a 2-year plan. The pandemic came. We closed. I think we closed the theatres on the 6th of March. We closed tours on the 20th of March. We closed the venue on the 23rd of March, and we went live with From Our House to Yours, which was a digital season, on the 31st of March. So between programming and marketing, we hustled really quickly and had this wonderfully curated and complementary program of a digital season, with on-demand videos, live streams, podcasts, etc., and then complementary marketing content on our socials. We had written articles. We had things about not just the performing arts, but the building and heritage and other things. So we ran a 31-week season. It let us try a lot of things that we may not have tried in a normal environment. We also tried live stream tours, where we had tour guides roaming around an empty building, live streaming to international audiences from all over the world. Something we'd always thought about doing. It did okay during the pandemic, but we thought if we couldn't get it to work when everyone was at home, how would we get it to work when people could go out and start exploring again? So so it really did give us a chance to try a whole heap of things we may not have done in a normal operating environment. It also gave us a chance to give artists work and create new art and new things over a really difficult time. And then the building reopened and we got back into business as usual, and the programming team kept programming, and the marketing started using their channels for more business as usual activity, just busy. And now we're sort of coming back to a point where we figure out what is next. Vimeo and other platforms are really expensive, and we've got a project team at the moment, marketing and programming, collaborating on what the future looks like, which is a more integrated approach moving forward.
Yeah, so that's also really interesting for me, this sort of convergence between programming and marketing, right? Because I mean, over at Esplanade, I mean, our programming and marketing teams have always worked closely together. But I mean, now that I mean, it's platform agnostic and people are really not coming to specific sites, but watching it from wherever they are. We're also looking at integrating our various digital channels, like our social, our website, with Offstage, right? So I think there's this kind of like global movement for that. So talking about reach, what are some of the key initiatives that have made a difference for you in terms of reach? Like you mentioned some partnerships, for example. I mean, how critical have these been?
Look, I sort of wanted to show you that that earned column in the slide before, because I think it shows you that we went from nothing to 230,000 to over 1.6 million, I think, in 2 years. And so those partnerships have been crucial. We have always worked, or for a long time, we've worked with ITV, which is Indigenous television, on dance rights, and which is our free forecourt First Nations dance competition. So that's been a long and rich partnership. We've had a long and rich partnership with the ABC from broadcast times, from radio broadcast times when we were first built.
So the earn
That
column is specifically for partnerships, right? It's the viewership
specifically
that you got from
partnerships.
Partnerships. Got it. Yeah.
Yeah, and that can also be, as I was saying, that could be a particular artist channel. If you've got, if you've got a Fred again or someone who's just incredibly dynamic. So that's where we're really seeing that we're getting the reach, we're getting people, watching the full recordings. In other areas, I think it's, pushing reach has been tough.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, so much of digital is also about resourcing and how we organize ourselves internally, our capabilities, right? So has anything changed also in terms of how your teams work together, in this pivot towards reach?
Yes, I think during COVID, it was like one mini team, and then as I said, back to business as usual, the 50th. The teams always work closely together, but not as intertwined as it is probably coming to a point now. So Stu, our head of stream and digital programming, and my marketing team, there's a real focus at the moment on that integrated approach to whatever we're sending out digitally. So reducing costs by not having Vimeo. We are looking to embed all existing stream content into the website. Also then looking at YouTube as a coordinated sort of channel. And then maybe there is some monetization that will come with that down the track. We think there's possibility there, but that's sort of a next phase for us. But what does connect the two teams is telling a unified sort of brand story. And if it's easier to find and the content is more discoverable on our website or our own channels, then that helps us with reach just generally, and people can explore more of the Opera House on our flagship platform.
Yeah, where would we be without YouTube? We also use YouTube on the back end as well, many of our counterparts in the arts in Singapore. So, I mean, from our pre-chat, when we spoke about digital learning and how this is a huge area for the Opera House, and also it's something that Esplanade were big on, and many of our counterparts around the region. Could you share more about education, digital learning, what some of the partnerships that have been critical in this space?
Yeah, so that's another area that is shifting constantly. So we have a series of on-demand workshops that you can access if you're a school or a teacher, and that has traditionally been marketed through a specific site that the Department of Education in New South Wales has run. 6 months ago, with very little notice, they closed that down. So we're now working on, I know, right? It caused some raised eyebrows. And so we're now working with we've got a specific team member who just markets to schools in a very, old-fashioned, picking up the phone kind of context. That's now including our digital space. It's another one that we're re-looking at because we have one flagship partnership with the Indigenous Literacy Foundation, which brings about 350 student eyeballs to a piece of digital learning every year, and that's on a specific day. So we're now looking at, should we evolve the way that we do digital learning away from bespoke, on-demand, quite often small numbers, to picking a series of headline days where we can make a contribution that maybe other organisations are less in a position to do, things like how that interacts with the built environment, and this building as an architectural icon, to, obvious places that we investigate. But I think it is one of the things that kind of having this conversation with you has highlighted for me over the past couple of weeks, is just how much digital is evolving all of the time. So you get something really singing, and then 2 years later you've got to tweak it again. I think much more than other areas of performing arts at the moment.
And then
No. Yes, please. Yeah.
I was going to say, adding to that, I think in the digital space, there's always a temptation to jump in quickly and do whatever the latest thing is. And I know from an on-site tours perspective and on-site education point of view, probably 2017, 2018, we developed with a partner a digital app on tablets for the kids. So as they were walking around the building, there was discoverability and questing and treasure hunting and all those things. And actually what we found was we felt like that was the right thing to do, but it wasn't right for the kids. Didn't actually like it. They wanted to just be in the place and remembering that the architecture itself. So knowing when the right time to introduce digital, particularly in the physical space, has been a real consideration for us. It's very tempting to jump at the latest technology without really understanding the audience.
Yeah, and I also think because I mean now with 360 and all that, sometimes there's this pressure to do like virtual tours and all that, whereas actually for audiences on site, I mean, they might just want to be in the space, right? But I mean, just asking specifically about schools in Australia, I mean, have there been any challenges in terms of syncing with the curriculum? I mean, one advantage obviously is that I mean, Australia is big, you know, the Opera House may be far for some schools to travel to. They can watch content from the Opera House, you know, in their classrooms, right? But I mean, what are some of the things that you've had to address in your content to kind of dovetail with their needs?
Yeah, I mean, we work with a series of educators, so we do tailor to the curriculum, and particularly we notice that there's real demand for First Nations work, for Pacifica work. So there are areas of programming that we're naturally doing that we know we're going to need to create some digital resources around. And each state in Australia has a different curriculum, so we do concentrate on the state that we're in, on New South Wales. It doesn't mean that there is a read across, but that is a focus for us. It is absolutely the case. I was talking about those kind of small, bespoke, on-demand workshops. That very much came out of a desire to be able to provide access to young people, whether they were in Burke or just down the road in Bondi. So that is, that's absolutely a consideration for us. We have a lot of distance education who access the workshops where you might be just, it might be only one or two kids on the line. So I think that's really valuable, and we're constantly, because the Opera House by its nature is grand in scale, we're constantly weighing up something that's really meaningful but might reach a small number of people versus those larger numbers. And I don't think that's going to stop being a dilemma anytime soon.
Yeah. So I wanted to now go into pain points. I think in the digital space there are quite a few, right? And I was wondering if it had any specific challenges with rights, with IP rights. I know you have resident companies, which might obviate that somewhat, but I mean, what are some of the challenges been like in terms of pain points in this space?
Yes, I mean, you're right to pick on IP to start with, because it's huge. So it for us, there's all of the thinking around let's balance the digital offer and all of those things, but at least 50% of the contemporary musicians that we work with are just flat out no. They've got their own digital strategy. They don't want to do it at the house.
Wow. Okay.
And others are like, this is the one place that they want to record a concert. So it can go either way. But obviously the bigger the artist, the more often the more careful they are about their IP, about the way that they're going out there. So that is difficult. Any of the ensemble-based companies have probably got digital written into their enterprise agreements, so their agreements with their staff. And so, for some companies, that means that they can do one or two live streams, no ongoing broadcast. For some, they have worked it out, but there's a fee, so there's another pain point, because you're right to identify IP as a pain point. Obviously, cost is another one.
Yeah.
So it's possible to navigate those things, but it's complex.
Yeah, it's definitely a case-by-case negotiation. And it is tricky, just even outside of the performing arts space, even from our own storytelling perspective, this is probably one of the most photographed buildings in the world, and we own the rights to almost none of those. So we've had some, So we've had some really juicy projects over the years where we're trying to tell the Opera House story, and we've probably spent just as much time clearing rights for archival, images or archival performance content than we have spent time actually developing, what the platform is or what the story we're trying to tell. So it's it's complex and it's ongoing. And then adding to that is the cost of storing assets and digital asset management systems, and we're navigating.
Yeah, so you mentioned the A word, archival. I mean, it's something that I think people outside of the industry don't realize, but there's a lot of work at the back end to save, to store our digital assets, to keep them safe and to future-proof, right? These assets so that they don't, become like you can't access them anymore when technology changes in 5 to 10 years time, right? I mean, what are some of the strategies you've deployed, for archival? What are some of the things that you've learned in terms of archival over the last few years?
I think they've accidentally muted themselves. Jade and Brenna, you may have muted yourselves.
We don't know quite how we did that because Jade just had to cross the room in order to unmute us.
I love it how we're talking about technology and I have to get up like it's 1985 and touch a button on a screen.
Yeah, thanks Yvonne for the intervention, because I thought it might just have been me. But okay,
Sorry.
Yes, so we're talking about the archival, the A word.
Yeah, okay. Well, as I just mentioned, so a lot of our older archival content isn't stored by us. So whether it's at the ABC, State Library, National Film and Sound Archives.
Okay.
There's a lot of organisations doing the heavy lifting.
Right. So partnerships.
But in saying that, they often own the right to that, and that makes it complicated for us. But there's that piece. But yeah, there is definitely a huge piece of work happening in the organisation on our DAM, our data asset management system, and scaling that, and how can we, again, partnering with government and government agencies to share space and other things. So it's a huge focus for us. We don't have the answer at the moment. We've also got a huge piece of work to do. We've got terabytes and terabytes of old hard drives with content on them, and we haven't tagged and catalogued and logged that too. So there's it's an evolving beast for us at the moment. We don't have the answer, and it's just a big operational undertaking that we're on the path to.
Yeah,
sorry, I mean, no answer there. We're struggling.
No, it's I think it's the same story for all of us. I mean, with archival, but I also wanted to ask about the C word, about cost, which popped up a number of times, right? So, I mean, for all of us, our core business is the arts, it's live performance, and if digital is not being monetized, then who funds it? So what have been your strategies in terms of the funding side of things, or maybe that impinges on partnerships? I don't know.
Yeah. So I mean, we're really fortunate in that we have established in my portfolio a screen team. Now they look after the recording of work. We also use one of our theatres as a little cinema a few times a year, and they manage the digital creative learning. So we've been able to fund that within the core. That is there are a combination of subsidised and non-subsidised areas of my programming team, and certainly the screen team is a subsidised area, and that's something that, because part of our job as the Opera House is promoting the work of the arts and promoting this iconic place, we can justify putting that subsidy in, but it's tough because it's always. If I'm looking at my budgets, there is always a big red number next to screen. And so despite the fantastic work that they're doing, even when we were doing well in terms of streaming paid content, it wasn't covering the costs. There are specific things where we've been able to generate either philanthropic or sometimes government funding. That's particularly in terms of the artistic work. So when we're doing screen commissions, some of those are supported. And we're now making sure that those screen commissions aren't just going out online, but are also having a life in our cinema program, generally in partnership with other organisations. So it might be Accessible Arts, or it might be the Blacktown short film festivals. So there are a number of ways that we're able to do that. But it's, again, I don't think we've got a silver bullet on this one. It's tricky.
And so much of the collaboration between our two teams, obviously it's about brand and storytelling, but it's also just about cost and efficiency and streamlining our use of platforms, and then how do we make sure that we're creating content that, even if it is subsidized, how does it ladder up to our brand promise of being nothing quite like it? And then we can leverage our MarTech and our AdTech ecosystem to help amplify our story generally. So that's why we talk about partnerships, but it's the internal partnerships just as much as it is the external.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, there is a question in the chat about the case for resources for digital, and from what you're saying, it suggests that really it's about reach, right? Because going beyond the four walls, right? I mean, at Esplanade, we see ourselves as an arts center for everyone. So our case for digital is, it takes us beyond our four walls. It brings the arts to everyone. So is there a similar kind of brand promise for you in terms of justifying the resources for digital?
Yeah, I mean, our overarching strategy is to be everybody's house. We'd love to bring everyone physically to this building. We also know that that's impossible. So there has to be a way for audiences outside the city, outside the state, outside the country to access.
And it's a great example of, during our 50th in 2023, Stuart in Brenna's team, it was called 50/50. So it was 50 pieces of archival content or performances over the 50 years. And then when everything from the opening concert in October 1973 to actually one of my favourite, I would call it performance, one of my favourite things I've ever been to here, which was Stephen Hawking being live, like being beamed by a hologram into the concert hall, being interviewed by his daughter who was there in real time. So we shared that, Vance Joy, Iggy Pop. So it was a real broad range. And that over the year, I think it was close to like 2 million views of that content. 25% were not customers of the Opera House, Sydney-siders, another 25% international. So it's just telling that story about new audience and engaging customers or visitors or potential visitors in a different way.
Yes, and I mean that also that storied history of all those connections that you've made through these performances through the years and decades, right? I mean, 50 years, right? Yeah. I mean, so I mean, I think for us also, I mean, like this year is Singapore's 60th anniversary. So we also did a program. We're also doing a program, 60 Connections, and the digital is an important part of that, because it's that history of the performances that. So we've also been rolling out screenings, a set of screenings called Replay as well. Yeah, but I mean, it's. I think that is those are the resources that digital brings to the table. So I see some questions in the chat, and I would encourage more of our guests online to put forward your questions. So there's a question from Australia about how, as you would know, the national ban on social media for people under 16 is about to kick in, possibly the first in the world. So the question is, with the emphasis on the platforms, the ban involves the ban basically means you might risk 50 million in fines, right? Is Sydney Opera House, I mean, what are the implications of this ban on social media for the Opera House?
I mean, we can park YouTube for a second. I think good question. We haven't quite cracked that one yet. I don't think it's a huge issue for us at this point in time. I mean, most of our social followers tend to be slightly older. We're not, really engaging that heavily with the 15 and unders socially. Maybe we should, but I don't think there'll be a huge impact in the short term. We don't have a very active TikTok because we're a government agency. So
right.
We do a little bit in that space, but not a huge amount. YouTube, I think we're like everyone, we'll see what that means and how that's actually what does it actually mean in real life application. I mean, you can still search YouTube for content, so you just can't create your own account account if you're under 16, and we're sort of working through what that might look like for us, particularly in the school space or for some of our streamed content.
Right. Yeah.
And it might mean that we need to look at, does some of our content specifically sit on YouTube Kids? How do we do that? But yes, as Jade says, I think everyone in Australia is doing a bit of
Thinking,
trying to get their heads around it all. I mean, including quite openly, the government are saying we're working through this. So
Yeah. I mean, I guess the what probably helps is that it's national, so at least your competitors also are facing the same challenge. But yeah, it does mean having to think through your value proposition in digital, right? Yeah.
And from a specific ticket purchase point of view, it's women over the age of 18. So our ticket habits skewed more to females, probably by not to generalize, but to buy on behalf of the family. So we don't have a large number of under 18s buying tickets to events at the Opera House.
So I mean, amidst all the various stresses, about digital, what are some of the things that you're really excited about, going forward in terms of what you can do with digital over the next few years?
I think, I just showed you one very brief slide, but for me, where it gets really exciting is when artists are saying, I actually want to play with this technology and I want you to help. And that's so a lot of the artist development that we're doing at the moment, we're finding that there's that curiosity there, and the kind of the baby motion mapping photographs that I showed you are part of an open source Google platform that's only been possible to use on humans that are under 1 metre tall for the last 18 months. So it's still very much learning. And so when you're kind of getting, unsurprisingly, one of the partners in this creative development is an academic, when you're getting people who are kind of really digging into that technology and saying, how can this enhance the artistic work that we're making, I think that's where it's exciting. Obviously, the flip side, AI technology feels quite frightening for a lot of artists, and understandably so.
Yeah. I mean, this has been more of a discussion around sort of digital content, but we rebooted our marketing tech stack 18 months ago, including replatforming our website, and so we're really kind of getting into the thick of that now. We've got some wonderful in-house developers that are helping us make real progress on sort of the marketing side. But from a customer experience point of view, and I know I gave a bad example of when we went too fast with some technology in 2017-18. But for me, I'm really excited about a project that we're working on. We know we engage really well with the online community, and we engage with the people that come inside the building. But we have 9 million people that come to our precinct that don't come inside. They come and look at the building and then leave. So we're exploring what a digital experience outside the building might be, using AR to tell the story of the precinct from when it was Tubagali through to Fort Macquarie, to a tram shed, to the Opera House today, and some sneak peeks inside, and how we do that in a really engaging and using world-class best practice in AR. That's a project that's on the boil at the moment, and we're hoping that we could launch something like that early next year. That just to really engage the broader precinct with the Opera House story and encourage more people to come inside and experience it.
So, I mean, earlier you spoke about, the challenges for in terms of securing rights, right, for filming, content and all that. Could you share like in terms of one recent project where the artist was willing, and on board with it, right? What the gains were for both sides, in a way, like to convince artists that it's okay,
Absolutely. So I think my favourite of those recently is we get some fantastic artists playing on the forecourt. Often they're artists who could be playing to 20,000 people down the road, and they choose to play on the forecourt because it's incredibly special as an audience member and also as an artist. And so Tom York was here last November. We engaged with him and his team early on about recording that performance. He has really strong interest in digital technology anyway, so he wound up, we think, spending his entire fee on buying himself some more digital kit that he was using live. We recorded the concert with his team. They've been incredibly involved in the editing. There've been approvals going backwards and forwards. So it's been an artistic project in and of its own right for him.
Right. Yeah.
And we will jointly release that in the coming months. We're getting a first screening in our cinema, which we're really thrilled by. And so that's an example where he knew the power of the technology already. He wanted the advantage of being able to say, I'm playing at the Opera House. You know, you can have shots of the audience on the steps. You can see the harbour. It's an incredibly special space, much like the venue you're coming from. And so what can you know, like how, like you're creating a piece of content that you couldn't create if you were in a studio. And so I think that's an example where it's a real win for everyone. And we're hoping it goes far and wide.
Yeah, I have another example of this. We, just before COVID, we were closing the concert hall for renovations. So we built a 270-degree digital theatre for our tours program so that everyone coming on a tour could go into this digital theatre and have a concert hall wraparound experience because they wouldn't be able to see the concert hall. And it was, again, rights. We didn't have a lot of archival content we could use, so we wanted to film some new content. And we reached out to a few artists, and some said, no, they didn't quite, we couldn't quite land that sort of mutual benefit argument. Go, but 600,000 people a year will see you. It's great for everyone. But we did have this, his name was Peter Ricks. He was a pianist, and we were getting down to the wire, and we said to him, could we film your concert? And he's a solo pianist on the concert hall stage in the round. And he was so excited by it. And in the end, it was the best collaboration because he was so into it and he played to it. We got to film him. It was a great platform for him. He was just such a delight. And we actually got a better outcome than if we had managed to secure an artist that was maybe a little bit more high profile. So it's, those productive, collaborative discussions early on, I think have been great for us.
Yeah, I mean, I think for us, I mean, how we've tried to get around some of these things. So like we've gone down the route of behind the scenes and documentary content more than screening archival. So I mean, we have a series called Cargo Lift Sessions where artists from all over the world who perform at Esplanade, we ask them, to perform an unplugged, intimate gig in our cargo lift, and we film it. And it's also for social and all that. And it's done really well. And we've had the likes of Gilberto Gil and all that performing in our cargo lift. So I guess these are some of the ways where I mean, we all try to be creative and try to work around. I mean, whether it's Tom York. By the way, the Tom York video, is that going to be on YouTube?
It will be eventually, not immediately, but yeah. We're looking at a cinema release to start with.
Cinema release. Okay, great. Yeah, we'll all be looking out for it. And another aspect of digital that maybe doesn't get talked about so much, but it's still very important for organizations. It's the customer and data side of things. Could you share, maybe, I guess this is for Jade, where the Opera House is on this front, and what are your thoughts on future investment in this area?
So one of our strategic priorities for the last financial year, moving into this financial year, is refreshing and enhancing our customer data roadmap. So we've got some wonderfully talented teams internally that have done some great work with using Power BI to really interpret, our customer data. We've just launched a new segmentation model for paid media that we're looking to expand more broadly. We're doing some more work with our resident companies where maybe they're ticketing on a separate platform and we don't have access to all the customer data. How do we make sure that we can pull more of that into our own data sets, and working with other sort of third parties. So we've got lots of bits on the boil at the moment that we want to bring into one holistic sort of 360 view of all customers, audiences and visitors that come to the Opera House. But it's a real focus for us, but also making sure that we have the right data and not too much data because, you can always have too much data and then not know what to do.
Yes.
Yes. We can be a little bit like that sometimes as well, but yeah, a real focus on audience first customer data is an absolute priority for for us. And maybe in 12 months' time, we can come back and share where we landed with our roadmap.
Yeah. So I guess to end things off, I mean, from your digital journey with the Opera House, right? I mean, what is one lesson that you've learned that you'd like to share, each of you would like to share with us, hard earned, but something that you feel is really important to keep top of mind when working in the digital space.
I think for my team, it is being prepared to be constantly assessing whether what you're doing is working. Much more, I think, than other areas of the performing, so we're a squarely performing arts team. And so much more than other areas where they can kind of go, okay, yeah, we experimented over the last 4 years, we're now set for a while. Whereas I think the digital team in all aspects, whether it's education, whether it's what we're recording, whether it's actually going back old school and leaning into cinema again, which has been working really well for us, having a look at, what's serving us right now, what do we maybe need to let go of, and doing that on an ongoing basis, I think is the big one.
What about you, Jade?
Yeah, for us, it's a constant reminder, particularly in the marketing space, not to be afraid of the rapid pace of change. We often talk about the fact that 2010, the selfie was invented. There was almost no YouTube. Airbnb didn't exist. Uber, like everything is moving so quickly. But don't jump to the sexy new toy. It's not about the tech. It's about slowing down and understanding. It's about the people, the process, the meaning in what you're doing, and making sure that decisions are really, really deeply considered and not just going straight for the sexy new toy.
Yes, I think that is so important. I mean, because with digital, there's always a lot of hype about the next big thing, and it's important to take a step back. I mean, like what you said just now about the lessons with the virtual tours, that schools actually just want to be in the space. So rather than invest and splurge on that shiny new toy, it does involve like thinking through very deeply in our teams what will really make a difference, what will really move the needle, and also is true to our brand promise as well, right? Yeah. Yes. Thank you so much, Brenna and Jade. I mean, it's been a really insightful conversation. I mean, it's been heartening for me to hear also that, I mean, even Sydney Opera House also faces the same challenges that the rest of us do with rights, with archival, and also that you've pivoted towards reach. You're seriously looking at how you can work through partnerships and be even more tightly integrated in terms of how your marketing and programming teams work together. So thank you so much for bringing a piece of the Opera House into our offices and living rooms this morning and this afternoon. Yeah, and I'll hand the time back to Yvonne. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Claire, Brenna, and Jade. I would just ask everyone to just hang in there for another 15 minutes. I want to thank Sydney Opera House for your generosity, for being so open with the kind of challenges and issues that you face. It's been really helpful. Being thoughtful is something that those of us who work in the arts, we are used to that. Being alive to constant change as well, because I guess in the world of the arts, nothing ever stays still, right? You're always having to address something. So I would say for everyone in the room that we can afford to be positive and hopeful about what the digital platform, the digital space means for artists. If it means being thoughtful and being responsive to change, we have to make up to write that through. On that note of generosity, there are two other folks who are going to come up in the next 15 minutes. Christine from Adelaide Festival Centre is going to share a very generous program that the centre does. They are opening up a creative arts or arts leadership program, and that's open for people around the region to apply to. So Christy is going to come and tell us a bit more about that program, and if you stay on, you can learn about that and perhaps put in an application. The other is Noel Kim and Song Yi from the Daejeon Arts Centre. They are going to be generously hosting the AAPPAC conference, and they were going to come on after Christy to tell us a bit more about the conference and how you can be part of the conference, why you should be going to South Korea in October this year. All right, so over to you, Christy, and to Songy and Noel.
Thanks, Yvonne, and hello, everybody. I'm coming to you from Ghana land in South Australia. Just to let you know that we are lucky enough to have a private donor that supports an arts leadership program for people like you, mid-career and leaders who are keen to take their learning to the next level, I guess, and also just to be together to share this kind of learning in the same spot. Next slide, please. So the program is suitable for people who really want to take a leap in their sort of leadership journey. On the first day, we focus on leadership, and I bring in extraordinary leaders from all over the place, so you can get a bit of a sense of different styles. On the second day, we take a really personal deep dive with a psychologist, Dr. John Wood, and you can learn about your own leadership style. And also that really bonds the group together, to be honest. And then on day 3, we're going to focus this year on arts and health, which with Flinders University, which will be on several levels, including artists, audiences, the benefit of the arts broadly for health benefits to the general public, and also for arts workers and what our roles can be and how we can help each other in that space. And finally, in day 4, we make sure everyone's topped up with tips and tricks and lots of learning in relation to things they can take home and potentially apply to their area. Next slide, please. So we have some scholarships for people from Asia. So last year we've had people from Singapore. This has been running for a couple of years now. We've flown over people from Singapore, Philippines and Hong Kong so far. So we have a couple of places for people where we'll pay accommodation and flights to ensure that it really is a regional offering. And we also are obviously accepting applications from all over Australia, but people in Australia need to find their own way to Adelaide. Next slide, please. So the bad news is that the deadline is Monday, this coming Monday, which is why I've snuck in to take a quick moment of your time on this chat today. So it really only requires a CV and answering some questions, but it does require a letter of support from the employee to ensure that they can leave the employment or wherever they are. It is also open to artists who see themselves in the administrative kind of arts leadership space. Next slide, please. So really, we're just asking that you might share this with your networks. If you can think of anyone who you think would benefit to come to Adelaide, do tap them on the shoulder and see if they can get involved now. More links will come to you, an actual link in the post-session email that you'll get after this whole thing. So I won't take time for questions. You can do that via the email when it comes out. Thank you. Thank you, AAPPAC.
Thank you, Christy. And over to you, Noel and Songy.
Okay. Hi, everyone. I'm Songy.
I'm Noel
of Daejeon Art Center programming team. We are happy to introduce the AAPPAC conference held in this October 21st to 23rd in Daejeon, South Korea. Next, please. Daejeon Art Center is the municipal organization under Daejeon City and opened in October 2003. And with a mission to foster cultural development in the region and expand access to the art for the citizen, our center curates high-quality performances, create new productions, and support a thriving local artist. Also, Daejeon Art Center has become one of Korea's leading performing arts organizations. Next, please. This year's conference, themed from local inspiration to global influence, offers a diverse range of sessions that spans the cultural scene of Korea and the global performing arts field. As a regional performing arts center, Daejeon will present its artistic initiative and also explore how the Korean performing arts is connecting with with the world. The conference consists of the keynote speech, 4 sessions, 2 venue tours, 2 showcases, an evening concert, a welcome dinner, and reception. Next, please. The conference opens with a keynote speech by Maestra Hanna Chang, a distinguished figure who transitions from being a renowned cellist to an internationally invited conductor. As a respected leader in the classical music, Hanna Chang will share her insight and unique experience from collaborative projects with Daejeon and other Korean performing arts bands. Next, please.
Okay, I will continue from where Song-il left off. So I'd like to give you a brief preview of 4 key sessions from the upcoming October conference. Do you remember the theme of the conference? Song-il mentioned. Yeah. This year's theme is from local inspiration to global influence. So we'll explore how K-culture collaborates with performing arts centers around the world to expand its global impact. So session 1, 2, and 4 will be held as panel discussions, and session 3 will be a breakout session for interactive conversation. Let me briefly introduce each session. So first, session 1, the global influence of K-culture. Yeah, I'm sure you all are interested in K-culture. This session examines the key factors behind the global success of K-culture and will share insights on national policies and institutional strategies that support its continued growth. And then session 2, local inspiration from the city of science, Daejeon. I think some people already know Daejeon is known as the city of science. Daejeon presents a unique mission of arts science collaboration. So we'll explore X Space, a joint project by KAIST and Daejeon Arts Center with insights from AI piano scientist Professor Ju-Han Nam. I think you don't know about KAIST, what KAIST is. It means Korea Advanced Institute of Science and Technology. Yeah, it means a science and technology focused university in Daejeon. And then session 3, changing times and an evolving audience. Yeah. This breakout session will focus on how shifting trends are changing audience behavior. For example, nowadays, most of the people have their own smartphone. Yeah, I'm sure you all have a smartphone. Yeah. So we can get the information not only on the homepage, but also through social media such as Instagram or Facebook. Yeah, promotion tools have also changed now, not only posters or placards, but also short video or rehearsal scenes. So there are so many promotion ways at the moment. Yeah, participants will exchange ideas and marketing strategies to better connect with today's audiences. At last, session 4, connecting the world through performing arts. Panelists from AAPPAC Associate and full members will share international production cases and discuss the evolving role of performing arts centers. The panelists will be notified as soon as we start. Please look forward to these 4 sessions. Next slide, please. Thank you. Yeah. And then, on the first day and second official days of the conference, venue tours will offer participants a chance to experience Daejeon's landmarks and Korean culture. The tour includes the Yeonjeong Korean Traditional Musical. Yeah, official name is Daejeon Municipal Yeonjeong Korean Traditional Musical. I think you can't remember it. Yeah, a venue hosting traditional Korean music performances and various cultural arts events. And the Hanbit Tower, a symbol of the 1993 Daejeon Expo, representing science in the future. And other locations offering unique cultural experiences. Next slide, please. Okay. About the performances on the 21st, there will be a showcase of space, the performance lab collaboration between KAIST and the Daejeon Arts Center I mentioned earlier. On the 22nd, a showcase by Ugumchi, not Kimchi, Ugumchi, a Korean theatrical troupe from Daejeon will take place. Additionally, on the evening of the 22nd, there will be a performance by the National Chorus of Korea. Yeah, next slide, please. Yeah, even though the conference finished, official conference finished on 23rd, there is one more optional tour in Seoul. On October 24th, delegates will have the opportunity to visit two APPAC member organizations, LG Arts Center and Seoul Arts Center in Seoul. Each tour will take 1.5 hours, including a brief meeting with the person in charge of the venue. There is no extra charge for this tour. It's amazing. And a one-way bus transport to Seoul will be provided. Yes, Song-Yu will take over next slide, please.
Lastly, early bird registration is open until September 5th. For detailed information, please visit our official website. And for inquiries regarding invitations, registration, and etc., please contact us. Next, please. And we'll look forward to seeing you in Daejeon this October. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, friends in Daejeon, Korea. Really looking forward to being there. Thank you once again to all of you who have stayed in room. Thank you to Christy and our friends from Sydney Opera House. It's lunchtime for most of us on this part of the world, and I think it's going to be tea break soon for those of you in Australia. So I won't keep you from it. There is a feedback form, but there will also be a link sent to you via email for your feedback and also providing more information on those programs. Do join AAPPAC, and I'll see you at the next Let's Talks session. All right. Have a good day, everyone. Thank you.